What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about one of the most important accessories to any man's wardrobe. So there are a lot of accessories one can look at when trying to build out your wardrobe or whatever your personal sense of style is. I mean, if you're into suits, you have handkerchiefs, you have rings, you have so many different options, especially if you want a little bit more of a nod to the modern world. You'll wear earrings, you'll wear necklaces, bracelets, whatever it is, to add your own personal sense of flair. In my opinion, there is one accessory that rules all. And what is that accessory? That accessory is the watch. Throughout the ages, watches have been a symbol of status and also of heritage. But in today's world, that may have lost its meaning in some sense. Now, largely today, watches can be seen as a status symbol. If someone has a Rolex or a Patek Philippe on their wrist, you're probably like, hey man, that guy has a lot of money. And in some sense, watches is a form of expression. Someone could wear a Shinola or some Swatch. But let's take a step back and let's really talk about why the watch is one of the most important accessories. Not only does watches round out someone's wardrobe, but it's one of those accessories that a man can have and can pass on to his future generations. It's something that isn't necessarily easily replaced depending on the emotions attached to it and who it's from or the reason why you bought it. Watches are just one of those things that a man can buy and he could truly say, hey, this is mine. This is something I'm going to pass on to my kids, and something that is more of a memorabilia or can be more of a memorabilia. So I'm going to talk about one of the watches I have, touch on a few points, point you guys into some directions, talk about some of the watches as I mature as a young man and get my bread up. Some of the watches I'm going to look at as I improve my style and more. So the watch I'm going to be talking about is the Hamilton Murph. Now, Hamilton is one of those brands that any guy could get into. It's more so entry level. It's not entry level luxury, but it is entry level to getting your first good watch. So there's a couple brands that I honestly would point any man in the direction of when they want their first good watch. And let's just say they don't necessarily want to spend $5,000, $10,000. Hamilton ranks amongst the top. You also have Tissot, Seiko. I personally don't like Citizen, but you can go to Citizen if you want. But honestly, there's three for me. That's Hamilton, Tissot, and Seiko. You do have other honorable mentions like Mido, but in my opinion, those three brands I mentioned are the best at that $1,000 price point and lower, and or entry level, your first just good solid watch. It's not entry level luxury, but your first good solid watch. Me personally, I chose the Hamilton Murph because I feel like it was versatile in a lot of different ways. I could see myself wearing it with a suit. I could see myself wearing it with some shorts. I could see myself wearing it very casual or a little bit dressed up casual. I feel like that specific model is very versatile. And for me, and what I wanted to accomplish at the time in my style and in my wardrobe, that watch fit the criteria. I didn't necessarily want to flesh out $5,000, $10,000. I wanted to take a step back and be like, hey, let me first get into this watch thing very methodically and smart, and let me not just shell out a ton of money. So I was like, what's a good watch brand to start getting into things? And Hamilton is what I went with. About a year or two removed from college, I chose to go with this as a reward to myself of getting out of debt and kind of being this self-sufficient man. So I wanted to reward myself with my first good watch. And I felt like the Hamilton Murph was a good option. Now, I got the 42 millimeter, the original one that you normally see in the Interstellar movie. Now, I didn't get it because it was in that movie. I mainly got it because it fit my style. I love that understated, clean. It was doing the simple things at a high level for its price point and for its realm, right? That entry level realm. So that's why I got it. I don't really care that it was in the movie, but it's kind of neat. And it's kind of neat that on the second hands, there's Morse code on it that I think says Eureka. I honestly don't really care too much about it, but I stuck with that model because I do like that added like detail to it. That's like, oh, there's Morse code on it. Whereas I think the new release of the 38 millimeter, although I think it fits my wrist a lot better, I like the fact that it did have the Morse code. It's kind of just like neat little details tied to it that you know, but not necessarily everybody else would know, and no one looking at the watch would know. So aside from the details and the simplicity and the versatility, it was also within my budget at the time that I felt comfortable spending. I think I could have went with an Omega, but again, what I was comfortable spending. And I think that's something you guys should also reference when you're trying to get to your watch. There's a difference between I could buy it versus I can afford it. And remember, these are watches. These are not necessarily, you don't need them. You don't need them. You need to live. So if you don't have money to get a watch, don't buy it, or get you a Casio. This is a Casio. I love this watch so much, and I wear it all the time in the gym, or if I'm just doing something real rugged. And it was like, I think it was like $19 or something like that. You could get it for like 15, anywhere from like 15 to 25 bucks. Going back to the Murph, you could find this watch for around $9.95. 1 second. Now, I wouldn't pay that for this watch. You can find this watch on other places for far cheaper. You could find it on the gray market for far cheaper. I think the lowest I've seen this watch was like in the high 700s or the mid 700s. I personally went to a boutique that was carrying Hamilton, and I liked the lady so much that I chose to spend my money with her, strictly because of her personality, and she gave me a little discount for her boutique. But I found it on Joma Shop for like 700 and some change. So I could have saved like $50 or $80, something like that, by buying on the secondary market. But you could find that watch for way cheaper than $9.95. So let's talk a little bit about why a watch is a man's grail for an accessory when it comes to style. I believe a watch can really fill that role of playing stealth wealth, or you could be loud with it. So there's so many watches where it could be full solid gold and it could be flashy, or it could be understated, but you get up on it and then you're like, oh, that's a very high quality watch. So you might see a presidential in rose gold or yellow gold, pink gold, I think what Rolex calls it, very flashy. Some people might bust it down, as they would say. I wouldn't do that to your watches. Don't ruin the craftsmanship of your watch, but if you want to do that, go ahead. So you could be very flashy in that sense, or personally, you could wear a Lange Söhne, which is one of the watch brands, that's my grail brand, and it's understated, but you get up on it in rose gold, Lange Söhne in rose gold or yellow gold, and you're like, holy crap. And then you turn the back and expose that exhibition case back, and you're like, the movement is absolutely beautiful. I love stuff like that. So it's one of those ways where you could be very subtle with it, or you could show some expression with it and be flashy, or you could have a mixture of the two. And something that would be a mixture of the two would be, in my taste, would be like a Rolex Datejust with a fluted bezel, right? Whatever dial you want. I would go with the rhodium dial. But something like that kind of would play between that flashy, but it could also be a little bit understated, but that fluted bezel and that white gold pops. I believe also a watch is something you could give to your kids. If you're someone who have kids or plans on having kids, this is something you could pass down to generations. This is something that you could give to your child as their first watch and really expose them to a world that is very, very incredible. You can meet a lot of great people in that space, in the watch world space. Also, watches are very masculine, in my opinion. Now, largely, watches can be worn by all types of people, but depending on the model and the structure, yeah, it could skew more feminine or masculine. But to me, when I see a watch, I think of a guy, I think of like James Bond, CEO, VP, some type of guy who has his stuff together. And I think if you really want to encompass that man look, somewhere you have a watch on. And on top of that, I feel like if you don't have a watch, you almost look incomplete. It's kind of like if you have a suit and then you don't have a pocket square. Look at a suit without a pocket square and look at a suit with a pocket square. That obviously cohesively goes with the outfit. And it's almost lacking when you don't have a pocket square. It's kind of like that pocket square rounds out an outfit. That's what a watch does. So in conclusion, I believe a watch is probably the greatest accessory to a man's style because of some of the points I named. It's first of all versatile, it's a way of expression, it rounds out that outfit, it could be passed on as memorabilia, It could have emotions attached to it. It checks off a lot of boxes that I think most gentlemen should be looking for in an accessory, especially an accessory that he wants to last. Appreciate you guys looking at this video. Comment down below if something you want to see next, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.